The show already revealed how everything falls apart, and almost nobody noticed. Not during a massive battle, not through some shocking death. The biggest clue in The Boys was hidden inside one quiet scene that most viewers moved past instantly. A conversation that looked small on the surface but secretly exposed the real future of Homelander, Vought, and the entire world collapsing underneath them. Because the scariest part of The Boys has never been superheroes. It has always been the people who stopped being shocked by them. That is the detail almost everyone missed. By this point in the story, Homelander is no longer hiding what he is. The mask barely exists anymore. Early seasons still portrayed him as someone trying to imitate humanity, forcing smiles for cameras, pretending to care about approval, and maintaining the illusion of the perfect American hero. But the current version of Homelander is completely different. He is openly unstable, emotionally detached, and increasingly comfortable showing cruelty in public. And somehow his support keeps growing. That should terrify everyone, because the show is clearly hinting that the real danger was never Homelander alone. The real danger is what happens when society emotionally adapts to someone like him. Once people normalize fear long enough, they begin rationalizing behavior they once would have condemned instantly. That is why this overlooked scene matters so much. Look closely at the way ordinary civilians react around Homelander now compared to earlier seasons. People still cheer for him. Crowds still chant his name. Supporters defend him even after witnessing horrifying behavior directly. The shift feels gradual across the series, which is exactly why many viewers never fully noticed how disturbing it became. The public is changing alongside him. And the show is clearly hinting that this transformation is the entire point. One of the smartest things The Boys does is avoid portraying evil as something distant. The world does not collapse because one superpowered man becomes dangerous. It collapses because institutions, corporations, media systems, and ordinary people slowly adapt around that danger until it becomes culturally survivable. That is exactly what Vought has been doing from the beginning. At first, Vought looked like a corrupt corporation obsessed with profit and public image. But the deeper the story goes, the more unsettling the company becomes. Vought is not merely covering up crimes anymore. It is actively reshaping reality itself. Facts become flexible. Tragedies become branding opportunities. Public outrage becomes a marketing strategy. And Homelander learned from them perfectly. That is why the scene so many people misunderstood feels so important now. On the surface, it may have looked like another tense interaction or uncomfortable exchange, but underneath it, the show was quietly revealing something massive. Homelander no longer fears public exposure. That changes the entire balance of power. Earlier in the story, Homelander needed approval desperately. Love from the public functioned almost like emotional oxygen for him. Losing admiration felt catastrophic because his identity depended on external validation. But now something darker is happening. He is beginning to realize fear can replace love. And fear is much easier to control. That psychological evolution may be the most dangerous shift in the entire series. Because once Homelander understands people will support him even after witnessing violence openly, his remaining restraint disappears completely. The show is clearly hinting that the famous public murder scene was not just shocking for controversy. It was a turning point, a test. And the response terrified even Homelander himself. They cheered. That moment changed him forever. For the first time, Homelander saw proof that parts of society would not only excuse brutality, they would celebrate it if it targeted the right enemies. Suddenly, he no longer needed to hide behind carefully managed public relations. His followers emotionally justified him automatically. That realization created something even worse than narcissism. It created certainty. And certainty makes Homelander far more dangerous than rage ever did. This is why certain scenes in later episodes feel strangely calm, despite the growing chaos. Homelander becomes quieter, more confident, less reactive. Many viewers interpreted this as character growth or stability. But the show is clearly hinting at something far darker. He is not becoming more human. He is becoming more comfortable with being feared. That distinction changes everything. The truly terrifying part is how other characters respond to this shift. Look at the hesitation spreading through Vought employees, politicians, media figures, and even superheroes around him. Fewer people challenge him directly now. Conversations become more cautious. Rooms fall silent faster. People start adjusting their behavior preemptively before Homelander even speaks. That is how authoritarian power works psychologically. The fear becomes internalized. Eventually, people stop needing direct threats because they already know the consequences instinctively. The system begins policing itself automatically. And that may be the hidden meaning behind the scene that most viewers overlooked. The danger is no longer just Homelander's physical power. It is the emotional atmosphere forming around him. Everyone begins adapting to survive him. That includes characters who once believed they could control him. Take Sister Sage, for example. Sage immediately understands something most characters still fail to grasp. Homelander does not simply want domination physically. He wants ideological submission. He wants a world where people voluntarily accept his superiority emotionally, culturally, and politically. And Sage knows societies are easier to manipulate when people feel exhausted, divided, and afraid. That is why her influence becomes so unsettling. She sees patterns nobody else sees. While others react emotionally to Homelander's chaos, Sage recognizes the deeper transformation happening underneath society itself. The show is clearly hinting that she understands public perception matters more than morality now. If enough people emotionally commit to a narrative, reality becomes secondary. That idea sits at the center of the entire series. Truth no longer matters consistently inside the world of the boys. Image matters. Tribal loyalty matters. Emotional outrage matters. Vought spent years turning catastrophe into entertainment, and now society struggles to distinguish genuine horror from political spectacle. That is why some scenes feel uncomfortably realistic. The series stopped being purely about superheroes a long time ago. It became a story about public desensitization. And the overlooked scene everyone misunderstood quietly exposed this perfectly. People were not reacting to Homelander rationally anymore. They were reacting tribally, emotionally, symbolically. He stopped being viewed as a man and became something larger, a projection of identity, fear, anger, and cultural frustration. Once that happens, accountability becomes almost impossible. Because attacking Homelander no longer feels like attacking one person. To his supporters, it feels like attacking them personally. That dynamic explains why the world inside the show feels increasingly unstable with every season. Institutions weaken because facts themselves become negotiable. Characters stop trusting each other. Public outrage becomes cyclical and meaningless. Violence becomes normalized through repetition. And Homelander thrives inside that environment, not because he created all of it alone, but because the system slowly evolved to accommodate him. That is the horrifying truth buried inside the series. Homelander is not an anomaly anymore. He is the logical outcome of the world Vought built. And the show is clearly hinting that the final collapse may not come through one giant battle. It may come through psychological surrender. A society so exhausted and polarized that it eventually accepts fear as stability. That possibility makes certain quieter scenes far more disturbing in retrospect. Every awkward silence, every nervous glance, every crowd cheers after something horrific happens. Those moments are not background details. They are warnings. The show keeps asking the same terrifying question repeatedly. How far can society drift before people stop recognizing the drift at all? And honestly, the boys may have already answered it, much farther than anyone wants to admit. Because the scene nobody understood was never really about Homelander alone. It was about everyone else in the room. The people watching, the people rationalizing, the people adapting, the people slowly learning to live with monsters until the monsters no longer looked abnormal anymore. And once a society reaches that point, the ending may already be decided.